So I get invited to guest on other people's podcasts all the time to talk about one main topic, that happiness is a choice, even when life totally sucks. I knew that one day, if I talked about this long enough, my life was going to have to suck. So I could see if I was full of BS and that I really couldn't be happy, or if I really knew what I was talking about and I could be happy. Well, as fortune has it, this week totally sucked. Like awful, terrible. And I was like, all right, this sucks. Can I choose to be happy even as life sucks? Or does it just suck? Well, I'm going to tell you the whole story and how I chose to be happy anyway. Let's rock.
Here's your host, Matt O'Neill.
So this week, the number 2 real estate agent in my whole company left me. Oh, this is someone that I love so much. I've spent so much time with her. We went to a conference together. I know her husband. We talk about her kids. Like, she's just an amazing, lovely, incredible human being that I have so much love for. Like, my heart just opens when I see her. She's just a joy to be around. And she's incredible. You know, the number 2 agent in our whole company out of 50. Like, one of the best of the best. And, you know, I called her the day after and I said, running a real estate team is like getting your heart broken every month. And she said, oh, I'm so sorry you feel that way. And I did, and I do, right? This is just, when you love someone and they say goodbye, I don't care if it's a romantic relationship or if it's in a career, like the heart connection is severed. It's not going to be the same. We're not going to see each other every week. We're not going to have the same conversations. Maybe we'll see each other once a year, maybe not even that. And sure, I could call and she could call, but you know how it is when you break up with somebody, you usually don't do that. And then there's other people in your life that come in and they say time heals all wounds, right? Well, let's not wait for time. This is the only time we can choose happiness, is right now. So that's what happened. That was the scenario. And she didn't just leave. She left and went to the competitor that has recruited the most people from our company in the last 2 years. And they're all people that I've worked with. And in fact, the leader of that company and the number 2 in command was a leader in my company and the number 2 in command at my company. I trained him. I taught him everything I know. And they used everything that I taught them, and I just loved them and helped them succeed, and I just wanted the best for them. They used all of that information, everything I know, to go copy everything I know and then compete with me. And not only compete with me, but then like recruit people from our company and say, hey, we do everything Matt does. We just do it better and we pay you more. And so it's way, way, way better over here. And it works. And so then that is a story that feels like betrayal. Like, man, I gave you everything I had and I didn't give it to you because I thought you were going to like stab me in the back with it. I gave it to you because I just wanted to help you. And couldn't you build your success without taking me down, right? So here's the 2 stories. I've got this story of getting my heart broken and I've got this story of betrayal. Both of those stories create suffering. You know, and you could put me in front of a jury and I could make my case to the judge and I could show all the evidence and all the facts about why I've been betrayed and why I've been heartbroken. And the jury would hear my case and they'd say, yeah, yep, this is betrayal. For sure, I'm going to write the verdict. And then, you know what? They could give their case to the jury and they could give their case to the judge. They could say, this is not betrayal. We've done nothing wrong whatsoever. And they'd have all their bullet points and all their facts. And the jury would probably say, yeah, it's not betrayal. And this is the point. There is no right and there is no wrong. Everyone has their own side. This episode is about choosing the side and the story that leads to happiness. We all go through crappy events. There are times when life is just painful. This week, that the story of betrayal and losing somebody I love to this other company, it's like somebody just went and twisted a knife in my back, right? Again, another very strong negative visual. But this is how, sometimes things happen like this, and we just think, oh, life sucks. How could I possibly be happy when something like this is going on? Or how could it be, Matt, yeah, sure. Like you're saying this is just like business. Something went wrong with business. But if I was going through a divorce, I couldn't be happy going through a divorce. Well, check out the episode I did with Alice Emerson called Divorcing Your Beliefs. Alice went through a pretty tough divorce, and yet she changed her story, and she's found a way to be vibrant and thrive and actually live a better life than ever going through the divorce. Or you could say, well, sure, but you couldn't be happy if your mother was brutally murdered. I mean, I haven't been through that experience, but I had Chris Singleton on the podcast, and his mother was brutally murdered in a hate crime. And even though that's not an experience he wanted to go through, he found a way to change his story from one of being a total victim and hatred and revenge, and change it to he's going to teach unity through this story. And Chris is one of the happiest, most successful, most amazing people I know. And even though that was an awful, awful, worst case scenario situation, he found a way to tell a beautiful, loving story out of a terrible event. Well, how could you be happy, you might say, if somebody came along and chopped off both your hands and chopped off both your feet? You couldn't be happy if you lost both your hands and both your feet, right? Well, check out the podcast that I did with Wendy Wallace. Wendy had both her hands and both her feet chopped off. And while she wanted her hands and her feet, she changed the story to one of gratitude for the doctors that chopped them off to save her life. And then she changed her story to say, hey, now with this adversity, I'm going to use this as a platform to teach about God, because I believe in God's mercy and that God is really looking out for me, and God is the reason that I lost these hands, and it's a help. It's a blessing. And how could you see losing your hands and your feet as a blessing? It's just a story. We can have a story that if we get both our hands and both our feet chopped off, that it's a terrible, awful thing that shouldn't have happened, or we could choose a different story. And this is the whole point. Your happiness comes down to the story you tell yourself. So anytime you're not happy, you're telling yourself a story about an event or a situation that's negative. You're telling a negative, disempowering victim story. I've been a victim. Hey, any of these situations I've just told you about, you could definitely say Chris Singleton was a victim. And Alice was a victim going through a divorce. Wendy was a victim. You could say I was a victim with my betrayal. Hey, what about being emotionally abused as a little child? Well, that's my story. I was emotionally abused by my dad as a little child. I was a total victim. Sure, a 5-year-old shouldn't be treated the way I was treated. But am I going to be a victim for the rest of my life? I was for a long time. And then when I became an adult, 35 years later, I decided that I was going to change my story. And I was going to change the story from I was abused to I was given circumstances that allowed me to want to choose good moods. And that's what I decided to do. Choose good moods. And then I'm like, all right, well, because now I've learned to overcome this negativity, I want to teach other people how to be happy and overcome negativity. And I created the Good Mood Revolution podcast. And so we can take any negative event or just an event. We don't know if it's negative or not. It's just an event. Some events make us make it really easy to feel happy. Some events are harder for us to feel happy. The wait is finally over. The Good Mood Revolution book is officially available for pre-order on Amazon today. You can go to Amazon and look for Good Mood Revolution book. And in this book, you're going to find the 8 bad moods that get in the way of your happiness. You're going to learn strategies on how to overcome each of these 8 negative thoughts. They're all lies anyway. And then what the thought patterns are that make us happy every single day. You're also going to learn strategies that can make you really feel fulfilled in your life and make other people around you feel fulfilled as well. So go on Amazon, look for Good Mood Revolution book, and order yours today. But our happiness is chosen. It is chosen by us. No one inside of us has any power to give any event any meaning other than us. We give everything that happens meaning. We tell the story of everything that happens to ourselves about what that means. So all we have to do to be happy is figure out when we're not, and then figure out what story we're telling ourselves and decide, do we want to be right about that story? Or would we prefer to change the story, redefine what it means, and be happy? The only thing that can hurt you is your story, your belief. Nothing else can really hurt you. Sure, you could say Wendy losing her hands, that hurt her. But listen to that episode. It didn't hurt her, it helped her because she told herself an empowering story. You could say Chris Singleton's mom losing her life hurt her. Well, not if you believe like Chris believes, not if you believe like I believe. Look, we are eternal souls, eternal, forever. We are forever souls. We never die. Think about the principles of matter, or energy. The scientific principle says matter can never be created nor destroyed. Energy can never be created nor destroyed. It can only change forms. Well, what about the matter or the energy within us? We cannot be created nor destroyed. We can only change forms. Chris Singleton's mom is in a beautiful, beautiful place. I know this. I know that we are eternal. It's just a fact. Some people don't know it yet. Totally okay. You'll learn. I mean, you might learn the day you die and you're still there and you're like, wow, okay, Matt was right. It's going to be way more pleasant for you, though, if you learn it now so that you don't have to freak out about, potentially losing your life. So you don't. Just changes forms. So, okay, I'm going to move on and get back into our beliefs and our stories. Here's the best belief and the best story to have. Absolutely everything is guided by God's infinite love for you. Everything. Every single event and circumstance ever is there for you to learn from and grow from. Because it is there for you to learn from and grow from, even if it feels difficult to go through, God is giving it to you to grow and become more because He loves you. This reminds me of my favorite episode in The Chosen. If you haven't seen The Chosen is one of the best TV shows ever created. It's about the life of Jesus. It's a 7-season series. They've just done 4 of the seasons. The end of season 3 has one of the best episodes and scenes I've ever seen. And Simon, one of the disciples of Jesus, him and his wife, they lose their baby. Simon has given his life to Jesus. He left his wife at home so that he could follow Jesus and teach with him. And while he's away, his wife learns she's pregnant and then miscarries the baby. And she suffers that loss without her husband there. When Simon gets back into town and he sees his wife, she tells him what happened and he is so sad. And then he's so angry. Simon starts telling himself a story about Jesus. And the story goes like this. He says, Jesus, I gave my life to you. You You are God. You are the ultimate. You know everything that's going on, and you can change anything that's going on. I'm with you. I see you healing total strangers. Stranger after stranger after stranger comes up to you that doesn't even know you, and you heal them of all that's wrong with them. You make the blind see. You make the lame walk. You heal the lepers. Me, the man that has given my life to you, has given everything to you while I'm away helping you. You don't heal my baby. You don't help my wife. You don't help the people that love you. And Simon is screaming this at Jesus. And Jesus is walking on the water to him. And he says, come out to me. Walk to me on the water. And Simon says, I believe so much in you. I know you're God. I know it. I'm going to walk to you. And he steps out of the boat, and Simon's walking on the water. And he said, why would you do this to me? Why wouldn't you help me? And what do you think God said? Why do you think God allows us to go through hard experiences like losing a baby? I'm watching this scene, and I don't even know what Jesus is going to say to this. Like, Jesus could have prevented it. He could have saved the baby. He could have given Simon and his wife this beautiful baby, and it could have been so happy. Why did he make them suffer? And when Simon finally gets to Jesus, Jesus says, I did it to make you stronger. And Simon just falls in his arms, and Jesus is hugging him. And he says, don't let me go. Don't let me go, God. Don't let me go. It's beautiful. So why do we go through these really, really challenging, sucky things? My buddy, Chris Welton, listened to the podcast I did with Chris. Chris's baby boy was born. And on the day he was born, he died. And I had an opportunity to talk with Chris about it. And I said, on the podcast, I said, Chris, man, like, that's the worst. You got to hold your baby only to lose it. And Chris got really angry like Simon. He was angry for a year. He turned his back on God because he thought God turned his back on him. Well, Simon was telling himself the same story. Simon was saying, God, you turned your back on me. But at the end of that episode, Jesus said, I'd never turn my back on you. I was helping you grow stronger. This was a lesson that only this situation could teach you. Sometimes the only way we can grow is through a really, really hard experience. Look, we don't grow in our comfort zone. It'd be nice if we did, but when everything's comfortable and everything's lovely and everything's going perfect, we don't need to grow. We just want it to keep continuing and being perfect and lovely. But we're meant to grow. I believe the reason we're here is to grow. I think it's the only reason we're here, is to grow and become more. In fact, I think our souls never stop growing. I think after we leave this earthly plane, the purpose is still to grow and grow and grow and grow. And sometimes it just takes hard experiences to grow. And that's God's love for you. Every single hard, challenging experience you've ever been through has been to help you. It's been to help you grow and become more and learn things that you couldn't have learned any other way. One of my favorite exercises was given to me by Matthew Micheletti, the author of The Inner Work. Matthew's one of my really good buddies. And he said, Matt, if you want to grow your faith in God, think of the worst things that's ever happened to you. Like, and for you, you're listening to this episode, if you can, grab a paper and a pen, write down the 3 worst situations you've ever been in. The 3 worst circumstances in your life. I did this. I wrote down the 3 most challenging, worst, awful, the worst things I've ever been through. And he said, okay, now that you've got these awful things on the paper, what did that situation do for you that helped you? How did you grow? So the next thing after you write these 3 awful things down is to write down the ways you grew from them. Write down the things you learned from them. Write down how much more compassionate and understanding you became of others who suffer because you've suffered. What we find when we do this exercise, and I did it, and I love it. This is an exercise that will continue to strengthen your faith over and over and over. What we learn is that like every single experience helps us in some way. Sure, we don't want to live through it again. I mean, it was awful to go through. We know that. But we grew in a way that we couldn't have grown otherwise. A lot of times we just grow more loving, more compassionate, more understanding. We're more able to help other people who are going through hard times because we've been through them. Are you looking to take your happiness to another level? If you're looking to be more successful, we need to be happier because success and happiness go hand in hand. But sometimes we get stuck in thought patterns we don't even know are holding us back. And we need a coach or a mentor to see things we can't see with our own eyes. I've had coaches and mentors help me access levels of happiness I couldn't have achieved without them. I'm now offering that same service to a small, select number of people. If you think one-on-one coaching could elevate your happiness, go to mattoneil.com and click the coaching tab to learn more. I look forward to talking with you. So let's go back to my sucky week. Look, this happened 2 days ago. so fresh. It's so fresh. And I'm in a really good mood. I'm super, super happy. Like I'm amazingly happy. Happiness is a choice. In the exact moment, it was painful. And let's just be honest, that night, it was painful. And yesterday, the day after, I would get to moments of clarity and love, and then it was painful. But I'm going to teach you the process that allowed me within just a day or two to reframe what seems like is a really sucky situation into my choice to be happy. So the first thing is we need to stop labeling it negative. Any sucky situation you're in, stop calling it a whatever it is. I was calling it betrayal and heartbreak. 2 terrible labels. Those are negative labels. First thing we got to do is we got to just knock off the negative label and just call it a situation or an event or a circumstance. So I had a situation. It's just a situation. An agent changed companies. That's it. It's a situation. Once we just label it a situation, then we can just look at the facts. Was it a betrayal? I don't know. Was it? I mean, from her point of view, definitely not. So was it a betrayal? The true answer is, it is if I want to believe it is. And it's not if I want to believe it's not. I'm the one who determines if it's a betrayal or if it's not. So if I call it a betrayal, man, that feels so shitty. And I'm not going to be happy. So I'm not going to call it that. So if it wasn't, then I get to be happy. I could be right about it being a betrayal, but I couldn't be happy too. You can never be both right about your judgment about somebody and happy at the same time. They cannot coexist. You have to give up being right. You have to just let it go. It doesn't matter who's right. It doesn't matter who's wrong. In fact, nobody's right, nobody's wrong. But if you want to be happy, just give up being right. So why do you want to be happy? Well, sure, it feels good to be happy, right? But sometimes it feels good to get revenge, right? There's a sweet payoff to like really not liking somebody and wanting to get them back. If I get them back, oh, that'll feel so good. Well, that's a small ego payoff, and it is not good for the long run. So let's talk about why we want to be happy. When we're happy, we have like really empowered, passionate, enthusiastic thoughts. And then those thoughts create really empowered, enthusiastic, inspired actions. And then those actions create a beautiful, empowered, inspired destiny. So when our mood is really happy, we have a beautiful destiny. Let's look at the other side. If I want to see it's a betrayal and then seek revenge, I'm going to be really angry, really bitter, really arrogant, really prideful, really hurt. Those are all my moods. And then my actions, my thoughts are going to be really like judgmental and critical. And I'm going to be all focused on their business instead of my business. And then because of those ugly thoughts, my actions are going to be awful. I'm not going to be like doing things to make my business better. I'm just going to be all focused on their business. And then my destiny is going to be miserable. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Whatever your mood is what your destiny is. But your perspective or the story you tell about a situation determines your mood. So really, the story you tell about any situation determines your destiny. So why be happy? To have a beautiful freaking destiny. That's why. You choose to be happy and tell yourself an empowering story today so that your whole future is blessed. Wow. Okay. Well, then why would we choose anything other than happy? Because anything other than happy gives us a miserable future. It gives us a terrible destiny. So we're going to choose to be happy. Okay. So let's talk about this story. Oh, I said, here's the words I used to her. I said, yeah, running a real estate team is like having your heart broken every single month. Ugh, how sad. That's a terrible story. It's the most negative narrative I could possibly tell. Is that true? It's true if I want to believe it. For sure, it's my reality. Without a doubt, if I want to believe that's the truth, I can certainly believe it. And then what do I get? What kind of thoughts do I get thinking running real estate teams like getting your heart broken every month? I get really sad thoughts. I don't want to do my job. I want to quit. I don't want to I'm like so tired. It's like being world weary. I'm just weary of the world. It's so heavy. And then what are my actions like? Well, uninspired. I'm not here to inspire anyone. I'm moping around everywhere. Who wants to work with a person like that? Well, then what's my destiny? Well, more people are going to leave because I suck, right? Who wants to hang around somebody that's sad all the time and is this big, huge victim? Nobody. Or other victims do. And those aren't the people I really want to be around. Okay, so let's turn it around. Running a real estate team is not like getting your heart broken every month. Let's just look at it as a situation. Here's the facts. When you run a real estate team, the average turnover of real estate agents is 30% a year. This means 1/3 of your team is going to leave every single year. Does that break your heart? No, not if it's just a fact. Like, this is just the business. 30% of all the agents turn over, move companies every single year. Doesn't matter how much I pay, doesn't matter how good of a job I do or whatever. There's some situation going on where somebody tells them how green the grass is, and maybe the grass is really green, who knows? And they say, I want to go get that green grass, and I think it's greener than the grass that you have at your company, and they just change companies. And this is just the industry. It's not the best part of the industry, but it's the industry. So if that's just the facts, and then I know that those are the facts, and we recruit agents from other companies to come with our company because they're turning over from those companies at the same rate, 30%, and we get agents from those companies, it's just my job. My job is to have agents come in and then agents go out. No story at all. If I choose to do this job, I need to like the job. And this agent, when I said I get my heart broken every month, she had an empowering story for me. She said, but think about all the people that you get to touch, all the lives you get to touch. All of these people will get to come into your world, and you get to help all of these people, and you do, and you help so many people, and you make such a beautiful impact in their lives. And sure, sometimes it's for a decade and sometimes it's for only a few years. But all of these people that maybe are coming and going, I get a chance to make an impact on all of them. And the ripples of my positive impact are so much bigger because I chose this super cool industry where I get to keep meeting and helping new people over and over again. And how beautiful is that? What an awesome, awesome industry that I get to make that big of an impact in the lives of others. Empowering story. Super empowering. Like inspiring, like want to have passion, want to become the best freaking person I can be for the people that are coming into my life this month that I wouldn't get to work with if I was in another industry that had less turnover. Awesome. Thank you for that. What about the other one? Betrayal. That's a crappy, crappy story. That's the worst story. I mean, you think about being betrayed. Oh, the knife in your back. Oh man, what a victim mindset. And look, I'm not here to add guilt to myself or judge myself. I'm just, I'm on the other side of that story. I believed that story for a day, and I no longer want to believe that story because it hurts. So on the other side of it, I can see that while I was believing it, that it really was hurting me. Was I betrayed? No. I got a different story. So, and this is what I'm challenging you to do. I want you to take every event that feels crappy. Figure out the story you're telling yourself. It's negative. If it feels crappy, it's a negative story. And then tell yourself a good story. Just make up a new one. Make up a better one. Like Simon, you could say, well, this was God helping me grow. God sent me this adversity because he wants me to find the beauty in this crisis. He wants me to find the silver lining. And there is a silver lining in every crisis. Every crisis is actually sent to you by God to help you grow. Problems are gifts. Problems are gifts sent by God to help you grow and become more. Okay, well, let's talk about the news story I told about betrayal. I truly believe this is true, but I want to be happy. I think everyone at that company is like one of my best friends on a soul level. I think like we are crazy good friends before we were born and before we came here. Like we've known each other for lifetimes. And like we're so tight. And my soul was talking to their soul. And I'm like, hey, look, I need some help overcoming these feelings of betrayal. Would you guys like work with me for a while and then go set up a new company and then make me feel really bad about it so that I can overcome it? And they're like, yeah, dude, for you, we would do anything. If that's what you want me to do, we're totally game. And I'm like, okay, thank you guys. Thank you so much. So what if everyone at this other company is like my loved ones, like my dearest, dearest friends, and I've asked them to put me in a challenging situation to help me grow? So that's my new story. And if they're my loved ones, and they are, then do I really want anything bad to happen to them? Heck no. If they're my betrayers, do I want anything bad to happen to them? Secretly, yes. I could, you can, and this is the thing, you can like try to brainwash yourself, but your heart knows the answer. So if you feel like, if you really haven't forgiven somebody in your heart, but you're pretending you've forgiven them in your head, you can say, oh, I wish you the best. But your heart knows secretly you wish that they fail. Well, when I'm thinking they're my betrayers, I may say, I'm wishing you success. And I may even think that I do wish them success, but there's a piece of me that wants to see them fail. Not with this story, not when they're my best friends, not when they're my best friends just helping me grow. Like my best friends, I want to see my best friends like freaking crush it. I want them to have the most abundant, beautiful life possible. So this is where I'm at with this whole company and all the people that work there. I want them to crush it. Like I want the best freaking lives for them because I love them dearly. And truly, in my heart, I just have all this like wishing of success for them. If you can get yourself there in your heart, it's good for you. So, like secretly wishing somebody fails, what that does, you get whatever you wish for others. You actually get yourself failing. Secretly wishing other people's success, well, your future ends up being blessed and you have success in the future. So it's good for you too to forgive and really, truly in your heart want good for others. But you only get there by telling yourself a better story. So this is my question for you. What crappy, sucky life event gets you down? What's the thing that when it happens, you just totally spiral? Think about it. If you have time, grab a pen and a paper. Jot it down. What event in your past do you still think was crappy? What haven't you gotten over? Who haven't you forgiven yet? If there's 2 or 3 of them, awesome. Write their names down, write those situations down. If there's just one that's come to mind, let's deal with that one. Now, what is the story you're telling yourself? And I know you're right. I totally know your story is totally legit. And you tell all these people and they all agree with you that you've totally been harmed and that you are definitely harmed and that you're a victim. I get it. You'll always be right. But as I said, you can't be right and happy at the same time. And so long as you hold on to this victim story, you're also creating a more miserable future. So I want you to have a blessed future. I want you to have a blessed future. And the way you do that is you choose a story that makes this really a blessing for you. How could you write that story over like I've done to say, hey, these are actually my friends on a soul level and they're doing this to help me? Or, hey, this is just a situation and this is just the way it is. And there's no need to take it personally. How could you tell a new story? You are as free to do happy choices right now as anyone. Your freedom comes from the story you tell yourself. When you see everything is guided by love, nothing in this world can hurt you. You could lose both your hands and both your feet and not be hurt. You could lose your mom. You could lose your baby and not be hurt. I know these are awful events to go through. We are all going to go through crisis, tragedy, adversity. All of us are. We don't get away with, like we chose to come here. We chose to come to earth and we chose to experience the highs with the lows. Like you chose this. This wasn't forced upon you. You chose it and you chose it to grow. So if you know you're going to go through adversity and you are, everyone you know is going to die. You're going to die. We're all going to get sick. Then our purpose is to figure out how to tell ourselves better stories so that we're happy as we go through adversity. And I'm not like, if one of my children died, I would be so heartbroken. If my wife were to get sick, my world would unravel. I'm not saying I'm Superman or I have no heart. I've got the biggest heart. Like my heart, I'm like such an empathetic person. My heart is huge. Losing people is really, really, really hard. It's the hardest of all. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't grieve for months and months. I'm just saying that every situation, there's a point in there that God's trying to help you like he helped Simon. He's trying to help you grow in ways that you can only grow through really hard adversity. Your happiness is your choice, even when life sucks. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode with Matt O'Neill.